Hello, everyone. The world is in chaos, but here in my podcast, The World According to Masih, I will bring guests to analyze the world events for you. The 12 days war between the Islamic Republic of Iran, the US, and Israel has ended. Of course, after almost 2 weeks of bombing and missile attacks, the ceasefire is holding. Many civilians in Iran lost their lives and homes. Also in Israel, many civilians lost their lives and their homes. My heart goes to innocent civilians in both countries. More than $1 trillion turned to dust just like that after the US attacked the nuclear sites in Iran. The money that the Islamic Republic spends to build nuclear enrichment could have been used to build schools, hospitals, universities, to build a peaceful Iran, a prosperous Iran. Let me be very clear with you. This war is not the war of Iranian people. We did not choose that. This war could have been avoided. But the Islamic Republic turned down diplomatic solutions. That's why innocent civilians are paying huge price. For many decades, more than 4 decades, the Ayatollahs stole billions of dollars. The people were not happy about that, but they fund their terror and nuclear ambitions, while Iranian people suffering from lack of electricity, lack of water. Khamenei and his gang of killers are now worried about people of Iran rising up, taking to the streets. That's why they arrested activists, dissidents, those who criticized them. They arrested more than 700 ordinary people right now that I'm talking to you, in accused of espionage. They warned that they will execute those who spying for Israel, and they already started that. Let me be honest with you. I want to see the end of this brutal regime. And I am not alone. This is the dream of millions of Iranians, not only in Iran, millions of people in the region, because they know that this is the Islamic Republic sponsoring all the terrorist organizations in the Middle East. Only after they're gone, Iran will rise again. From this day, we need to start thinking about an Iran without the Islamic Republic, because this regime is a threat not just for the people in Iran and in the Middle East, to a global security. How to start this process? Which brings me to the topic at heart. I had the privilege of having a conversation before America entered the war with my good friend, the great world chess champion and pro-democracy activist Garry Kasparov, about the dictators in Moscow and Tehran and what happens when they fail. So do not miss this conversation. It seems that Moscow can be a retirement place for all the fallen dictators. What do you think about that?
It's about your choice, your enemies.
Anytime when people manage to shake the regime, the US president, the Europeans manage to shake the hands of the regime.
Putin's view is very simple. He does everything that is good for Putin.
This is different culture. We don't want to interfere.
Yeah, you have a culture. What the hell is this with culture? So why? It's this people entitled to make their choices.
Garry, they have been telling us that if the Islamic Republic leader's gone, then Iran is going to be another Syria.
You can't, expect Israel to do the job for Iranian people, and they're not pretending. They have very little, if anything, in common, except the fact that they believe that the spread of democracy, the freedom as a concept, this is the biggest enemy for their rule. Believe that the free world now is just on the wrong path. It's a dirty job, but someone had to do it, and Israel, it's defanging this poisonous regime. There are no rules. Yeah. We are at war, and again, this is not
a war from authoritarian regime against democracy.
It's a war imposed on us.
Welcome to the World According Masih. Difficult days for us people in the Middle East. But I have an amazing guest, Garry Kasparov. You know him as the youngest world chess champion. But he is, to me, a hero, a dedicated fighter against dictators. Of course, the biggest enemy of Putin, brilliant strategist. And who are you? How you introduce yourself, Garry Kasparov?
No, I used to wear many hats. And first of all, thank you very much for inviting me at this very, I would say, interesting time, because it's difficult, it's very perilous, and we look at Iran, we look at Ukraine, we look at many other places in the world. It's ablaze. But what brings us together? So we're both optimists. Yeah. Sometimes,
I do my best, but let me tell you.
Sometimes unfounded optimism.
I know,
yes.
But let me take you there. We had tense event happening in Iran, and I am bombarded with different feelings, because here we are. Iran is losing control of their airspace. They lost, all the top military leaders. People, of course, were celebrating the death of their own killers. But at the same time, I have to say that civilians are getting killed, more than 100 casualties. And these are the people are fighting against dictators. So zero sirens, no warning, no bomb shelters. So my heart goes with innocent civilians in Iran. And no mistake, my heart and the heart of millions of people goes with civilians in Israel as well. So, but I have to tell you that the leader of the Islamic Republic, Ali Khamenei, is missing, hiding somewhere. That's why I'm wondering if Putin is actually making one of the room ready next to Bashar Assad to host Ali Khamenei, because I know you always say that dictators are not going to retire, they're going to fall, but it seems that Moscow can be a retirement place for all the fallen dictators. What do you think about that?
Definitely, if Khamenei and his cronies, if they have to fly out of around looking for a safe haven, Moscow will be probably number one choice. It's maybe not the number one, maybe the only destination where there will be welcome. Now, technically, still you can have North Korea, maybe Venezuela, but those are not the places I'm sure they have in mind. So
did he take any position? Because he's quiet. He's not that.
Putin. Look, Putin's view is very simple. He does everything that is good for Putin. So it's a classical dictatorship that doesn't care about even allies. So he asked Iran for help. Iran has been heavily supporting Russia in the war against Ukraine. So Iranian drones played a very important role. So Iran got in. And as a result, they had a strategic agreement. And I think Iranian regime expected Putin to offer some assistance, maybe if not direct assistance, but definitely put pressure on Netanyahu and Americans, to prevent them attacking Iran. Didn't happen. And it seems now that Putin's losing interest, to be part of the losing game. So I'm sure again he can offer asylum. He can probably offer some kind of maybe help behind the scene, but it doesn't look like his efforts, if even he tried something with Trump or Netanyahu, that they materialize. So if regime goes down, I don't think Putin will lift his finger.
Why? Because they have been like allies for years and years. Forget about absolutely different. One of them fanatic religious, extremist religious, the other non-believer. But at the same time, it was the Islamic Republic sending suicide drones, helping Putin to kill innocent Ukrainians. So a lot of time we think that they stick together to the end. What happens now? A lot of Iranians are asking that why Putin is not.
Dictators don't stick to each other till the very end because there's no idea behind it. It's a coalition of you may call willing, but a coalition willing to fight against the common enemy. And the common enemy for them is a liberal world order. As you pointed out, there was nothing that brings them together. This is ideologically is not the same as a Cold War, where you had the Soviet Union and many countries tried to tried to follow Soviet Union. And it's even paying lip service, but it was kind of ideology, so that they had to support in public, even if they didn't believe in it. Yeah. When you look at the coalition that is, or autocracy incorporated, the dictators, all these thugs and terrorists that are just getting together and fighting against the free world. So you look at, of course, Russia, you look at China, you look at North Korea, at Venezuela, at Iran, and many other countries. Belarus, for instance. They have very little, if anything, in common, except the fact that they believe that the spread of democracy, the freedom as a concept, this is the biggest enemy for their rule. So they are trying to stay in power. But again, the prime goal, maybe the only one, is to stay in power. So and if you want to stay in power, so you don't want to do anything that could be detrimental to this goal. And again, you look at Iran now, Iranian regime is not strong. It's losing. So, and why Putin should stick his neck to something that looks like now, and hopefully it will, it will continue, just along this path, like just a game that's is going to be lost.
Yeah. You always say that Putin sees weakness as an invitation. That's exactly the same word that Ali Khamenei. He understands only language of pressure. That's why when the same case, the same scenario, when the leaders of Hamas was crushed, he abandoned them. He abandoned Bashar al-Assad, absolutely abandoned him because he was losing. So it seems that you're saying that Putin is abandoning Ali Khamenei.
Likely so. Again, Putin most likely is trying to do something behind the scene.
Behind the scene,
but, because, he has personal ties to Netanyahu and Trump. But it seems now that Putin has to choose whether to keep good relations with Trump and Netanyahu, which is far more important for Putin to survive, or to throw political capital, and a lot of capital, plus maybe some of the resources to prop up a regime that, again, is on the losing end.
Okay. You mentioned about Trump. Let's just get to one of the most difficult part of our conversation, because a lot of people get frustrated when they see the debate in America right now. There are two sides saying that, what should we do? The left absolutely lost. We lost the liberals. They sympathize with dictators, with Islamists.
But the left is very, it's a very broad concept. You have you're talking about far left. So this is, you should talk about right and far right. So we're talking about far left progressives. Yes, here and in Europe, again, it's their sympathies with Hamas, Hezbollah, with Iran. I think it's based, on the same concept as this autocracy incorporated. It's like common enemy, because they believe that the free world now is just on the wrong path. So that's why I think this is the prime factor for the far left to be behind dictators and terrorists, is their hatred for America and Europe, for the current arrangements of the free world.
Yeah, but I don't get it. I mean, I get frustrated, but I really don't get the logic. So you say far left, but I see that, a lot of time when women were begging the left here to join their cause and their fight against Islamists, they were absolutely silent, saying that this is different culture. We don't want to interfere. So different argument. Here we are. We're talking about a warmonger regime like Islamic Republic, not only targeting their own people, transnational repression here on U.S. soil, targeting the U.S. citizens. You've talked to many American officials being the target of the Islamic Republic. So basically, it's threatening the national security of America as well. At the same time, we have the right side, like the right-wing people telling us, America first. Garry, I go to them and I say that, yes, I understand when you say America first, but for Ali Khamenei and his gang of killer, America is first too. The first target that they want to destroy is America. How do you convince them that we're talking about warmongers, we're talking about dictators, and how do you convince them that this is the time and you have to line up behind freedom fighters, not dictators? Because I see even right now, the anti-war activists in the street here in New York holding the flag of Islamic Republic, Garry.
Again, it's about your choice, your enemies. And the fact is that so many people here supported Hamas after October 7 massacre. So it just tells you everything. So some people should, they should be, not, you cannot ignore them, but don't try to convince them. So
then we lose the narrative here in the West.
No, we don't lose a narrative. Our narrative is just, we lose some people on the far right and far left. We don't lose a narrative. Our narrative is universal. So we believe in fundamental freedom that should have same appeal everywhere on the planet. So we believe that people are entitled to be free, whether they live in America, in Iran, in the United Kingdom, in Russia, in Taiwan, in Vietnam, in Venezuela, in Sudan. So that's our belief. So we are consistent. We are just promoting fundamental values, and we believe that people are born equal. They are technically agree with us, but they see the difference. They all of a sudden, it's like, the gravity is not working the same way. Oh, you have, you have a culture. What the hell is this with culture? So why? It's this people entitled to make their choices. If they want to wear a hijab, fine. But the fact is that what you're fighting is compulsory. It's imposing their will on people. And most of the things being imposed on people, like Taliban in Afghanistan, I would say it's a joke if it's not be a tragedy. So those are just, the medieval stuff, and it's multiplied by the corruption and by the ongoing crimes against humanity, against fundamental human rights. And of course, they're all involved in corrupt businesses, in drugs, and it's human trafficking. So we all know that. So we trying to actually help people who are fighting against this evil. And all of a sudden we hear, but it's probably, we just have to, make corrections. It's like, the wind, because of the wind, you just have to make corrections in trajectory. So no, people in Iran, people in anywhere in the world, they're entitled to have the same freedom, the same rights as people in the United States. And that's where we part with this, whether they say left or far left.
Yeah, but so you're hopeful that we're not losing narrative, because I strongly believe that this is the war of narratives here in the West, and dictators are really good at selling their own narrative to the West, to the youth here in America. I saw on TikTok Osama bin Laden suddenly became a hero for our children here in America. Suddenly they found a letter from Osama bin Laden to the president of the United States of America, and talking to each other, getting together, and then going to university campus saying, I am Hamas. So now I want to tell you that a lot of people are watching what's happening in Iran. We both were not shy away to say that we want regime change, but definitely we wanted regime change to come when people were taking to the street and chanting against the Islamic Republic. The level of crackdown was miserable. Only in 3 days in the bloody November in 2019, the Iranian regime killed 1,500 people. The same message happened when Mahsa got killed in my country and Iranians were chanting they want regime change. 800 people got killed. Now we see here in the West people telling us that, wow, okay, you're welcoming now Netanyahu to impose regime change on Iranian people. How do you see that when Americans don't want to get involved, when some policymakers, both sides, Republicans and Democrats, saying that regime change is something that should come within the country and America or Israel should not talk about regime change? I'm going to say something and then I want to hear you. If it was regime change from Netanyahu or American government, they should have gone after the political leaders in Iran, like Ali Khamenei, Pezeshkian, Larijani, the head of parliament. They eliminated all the military leaders. And that's a sign that they're not looking for regime change. But what do you say to those here in America saying that regime change, and they're really allergic to the term regime change?
You don't have to throw the term regime change. You can do things that will create the fertile ground for the regime change. At the end of the day, it should come from inside. Yeah, and again, Israel aimed at the military commanders, at intelligence, at nuclear scientists, because Israel is not fighting Iranian people. Israel is fighting the regime that is threatening to eliminate the state of Israel. So you can't, expect Israel to do the job for Iranian people, and they're not pretending of doing this job.
Yeah, they
so
didn't.
I may agree that just it's throwing the regime change mantra all the time is not very productive. But the problem is not it's that you push or don't push it. The problem is that the very idea of regime change as an outcome of military operation scares off the Western politicians, whether it's Iran or Russia. So that's one of the reasons why Ukraine is bleeding now, is because for 3.5 years, the West, cannot say simple words. Ukraine must win. Because if Ukraine must win, then Russia must lose. And Russia losing the war could lead to chaos and to consequences that may even end up with the regime change in Russia, which I believe is the only way for my country to actually to have any future.
It's an only option for Iranians to have a future.
Exactly. So that's why
to get rid of
it's an only option. So we have been dealing with similar accusations. You have to separate between fighting Putin or Russians. No. We believe that the regime now controls, Russian regime, I'm talking about the Putin now, controls the country, has a massive army, and it's committing war crimes every day, if not every hour. So Ukraine's victory is not everything. It's not like a final blow to the regime, but it's mandatory for the conditions to be created for regime to be changed, because you have to convince Russians that imperial idea is dead. Situation in Iran is even more promising, because you have a lot of people that
taking to the streets.
Taking to the streets. I think the balance of people who are against the regime in Iran, it's versus supporters, is positive. Again, I don't think we can rely on any data, because it's polling in unfree countries is very tricky. But instinctively, I feel that you have majority of Iranians against the regime, and I don't think that we are even close to the same numbers in Russia. The real challenge is basically how you balance this call. So that's but at the end of the day, it's what we can do, and what I think what we should do is to keep repeating that, is that if the outcome of this military operation, if the outcome of this Israeli attack, to that is now successfully destroying Iranian nuclear capabilities and military might, eventually will lead to the collapse of the regime, fantastic. So let Iranian people decide for their future.
That was our dream for years and years.
And I think that there's those in the free world that are trying to make this kind of making faces and we don't know. Now this is it's nonsense. We have been negotiating with this terrorist regime for decades. So one of the reasons that the Middle East is ablaze now is just because you have been giving billions of dollars, tens of billions of dollars for this fake agreements with regime that never ever showed or demonstrated any willingness to withdraw its like a main slogan, death to Israel, death to America. So they have been very consistent. So they were making kind of the temporary truce, but the idea that Israel must be eliminated and America must be kicked out from the Middle East, this idea was always in the center of the Iranian regime foreign policy.
I grew up in this, like from the age of 7. We were brainwashed to chant death to America as loud as the Tel Aviv would shake. I remember the time that millions of children from the age of 7 were told that if you don't shout death to America, you won't be able to go to school and get an education. Yes. And that's why the generation started their own revolution against the Islamic revolution. What is the best then the US can do? If they say that, we believe in that, both of us, that the regime change must come within the country. And that's why the Iranian people took to the street right after the stolen election 2009, where Obama, instead of supporting the people of Iran, sending letter to Ali Khamenei. When people took to the street, when they increased the price of petrol in Iran, what happened? 1,500 people got killed. President, anytime when people manage to shake the regime, the US president, the Europeans manage to shake the hands of the regime. Then now what they can do right now, the Iranian regime lost their proxies, Hamas, Hezbollah, crushed. Bashar Assad, gone. Now the top leaders are gone. So the regime is collapsing. It's its weakest point. What is the best that the US government and Europeans can do right now? Instead of labeling us and saying...
German Chancellor Friedrich Merz, I think, was blunt when he said, look, Israel has been doing our job. It's a dirty job, but someone had to do it. And Israel, it's defanging this poisonous regime that was and still is, the main threat to the stability and peace in the Middle East and beyond. So I think they should stop, just interfering with this operation. And I think that we cannot decide for the U.S. administration, but I think America could help Israel to finish Iranian nuclear program once and for all, so for good. I think it will have a psychological effect. So again, I'm not here to analyze all the pros and cons. So I understand there's some negatives, but I think the finishing Iranian nuclear program is important.
But you are in touch with many dissidents from authoritarian regimes. What do they say when they are in this position, either facing war or people taking to the street to overthrow their regime, pro-democracy uprising taking place everywhere, from Venezuela to countries in Latin America, Asia, in the Middle East, everywhere. What is their demand, like a specific demand to democracies? And what is missing here that the dictators are more collaborating, working with each other, helping each other? The other side, the democracies are not as united as dictators.
Look, we all believed, and I said believe, that's,
You lost hope now?
No, that's the nonviolent resistance could actually bring results. And again, in theory, it's correct. And we saw many successful nonviolent protests that led to political change. But it seems now, this is the nature of the protest, successful protest, depends also on the nature of the regime and also global situation. So it's, the Soviet Union in late 80s looked weak. So and the regime, you could see inside, there were great disagreements. So they looked for transformation. And that's why the mostly non-violent protest led to the collapse. Though, of course, it was the lost war in Afghanistan, the lost Cold War. So those were important factors that contributed to the collapse of the Soviet Union. But we're now in a very different geopolitical climate. How many people have been killed in Iran? Thousands.
Right after the Islamic Revolution, they executed hundreds.
I'm not talking. I'm talking about this is the last few years. I mean,
in November, 1,500 people got killed. Women life freedom, 800.
Look, this is
the numbers that we get from the Islamic Republic.
That's the point. So we're talking about thousands of people being killed through this. It's not like a genocide. You just go just after
simply
people.
For protesting.
No, exactly. This is the legally sanctioned murders. So that's what. So what do you expect? I mean, this is for those who say no. You have to be. You have to be very cautious. You cannot. Cross the threshold. You have to. Remember that. This. If you do this and that, you will not be different from them. I mean, fine. Here in America, I'm saying don't do anything. Illegal. Don't burn cars. Don't break windows, because you have instruments. You have elections, you have free press, you have the court, the independent judiciary. You can use the levers of power to fight against the growing threat of authoritarianism. But what about Iran? What about African countries? What about Russia? What about, again, it's a long list, Belarus? What about Venezuela? I mean, look, we do. In Venezuela, they did everything by the book. They won the elections. They proved it. So there's nearly 70% of people voted. They counted every vote.
Yes.
And Maduro, big deal. So the free world said, yes, of course it was fake, but what can we do? Well, yeah, actually, you can do a lot. But that's why I think we have to insist that the attitude will be changed. People deserve their rights to be free. And next year we'll celebrate the Declaration of Independence. And again, it's a founding document of this great country.
It
has a very strong message. So this is people have rights to rise against dictators. So why you deny? Why you celebrate the great American revolutionaries that overthrew the British rule? Which is, by the way, compared to what's happening in Iran now, or in Africa, or in Russia, I mean that was fairly, just liberal. They talked about taxes, not about just it's massive incarceration or genocide. Okay, they had differences, with overseas metropolis. But now it's just amazingly that it's the moment you start talking about, the resistance against the regime, or you say we would like, to see this regime to be weakened because they lose the war, because it's being pushed by Americans, Israeli, by outside force. Yeah, you hear a lot of just it's like very foggy. It's not so clear.
Let's just be very clear, because no one is here going to cut us. We are two independent activists, and we are being labeled for years and years. Even you, when you were warning the rest of the world in your book that winter is coming, nobody took serious. When Putin was in Syria, people said, When Putin was fighting in different part of the world, people in the West didn't take your warning serious, labeling you warmonger. Here we are. Putin is in the middle, in the heart of Europe right now. So this is the same scenario. When we are warning the West now about the danger of the Islamic Republic, people label me now saying that, wow, you're welcoming the military action against the members of Revolutionary Guards. This is violence. Why people... I am talking about the mothers of those victims who were tortured to death in prison. I am talking about the mothers of women who were raped in prison to death, like Nikah Karami, only 16-year-old. I am talking about Hamid Reza, whose mother sent, her message on Instagram saying that, of course I am happy when I see the killers of my beloved son got killed. So I want to tell you that when people hear Osama bin Laden was killed in America, what was their reaction, Gary? Because I was not in America, I was in Iran, showing my sympathy when September 11 happened to American peoples. My question is very simple. What happened when Osama bin Laden got killed? Americans see that as violence, or celebrated that as a sign of justice for the victim?
I don't think it was a celebration, but I think it was just a sense of
I show you.
Justice. No, it's very
justice.
Clear. No, that's he deserved to be killed.
So then what is the difference between Qasem Soleimani, Hussein Salami?
Again, you're preaching the converted. Yes. So that's from my perspective, again, we are at war, and it was not a war that we chose. When you look at all these regimes, at Putin and Iranian mullahs, at China, at Venezuela, I mean, it's at all these dictators around the world, they came to a very simple conclusion that in the modern environment, the only way they can justify the existence of their terrorist, dictatorial regimes, it's to continue confrontation with the free world. So the confrontation with the free world, sometimes, kind of hybrid war, through propaganda, sometimes, through terrorist attacks, sometimes in a direct military assault as Putin against Ukraine. So it's the only way to actually convince their people, to rally the people in these countries behind the regime. Because if not for confrontation, then you have to explain why you are not living as well as your neighbors. I mean, Hamas was built for one purpose, just to fight Israel, because they did nothing for Palestinians. So live in Gaza. So Gaza could be just maybe another Singapore. So there's not a rocket science.
My heart goes with people in Gaza and Palestine. They are the victim of the Islamic Republic as well.
Absolutely, because Iranian money, but let's not forget, it's not only Iranian money. So there's a lot of money that Hamas invested in terror network and in ideology of terror came from Europeans or Americans. So this is, United Nations is just, it's built, just around these principles that are totally outdated. Today, United Nations is one of the greatest generator of the theories about, this all non-violence. We just have to, it's about like peaceful coexistence. That's nonsense. This is not peaceful coexistence. Ask Ukrainians, ask, Syrians, ask Venezuelans. But what kind of peaceful coexistence are you talking about? So it's very important to understand that the entire world order now it's rotten. So it's not working. And what's happening now it's in the Middle East. It's a response of the free world. So it's just, again, Israel is just is doing, again, as Chancellor Merz said, doing a dirty job for Europeans that were too lazy, too complacent, and had no willingness just to get their hands dirty. So it's always in white gloves. We have to find a compromise. No, there's no compromise, because it's just look at Putin. Putin is not hiding his intentions. He's making very, very clear he's at war with Europe, and you hear Europeans now finding every excuse. Yes, we can't cross this line. And nobody's asking you, So you talk to Baltic nations, talk to nations that have been suffering for decades from Russian occupation, from Russian aggression, from genocide that committed by Soviet Union, Russian Empire. So the moment you talk to Estonians, Latvians, Lithuanians, Finns, Poles, you understand, that says the threat is real. But then you talk to the rest, of Europe and it's many Americans. Yeah, but we just have to play by the book. Then there are no rules. Yeah. We are at war, and again, this is not a war
from authoritarian regime against democracy.
It's a war imposed on us. And this war, this is not. Okay, it's somehow you may compare this with a game of chess. The way I see it, you have black and white. You have forces of freedom and you have forces of tyranny. Mm-hmm. So it's good and evil. But unlike in the game of chess, there is no draw. You cannot say, okay, it's game is over, tie, we just start a new one. It's a war that will end up either with us winning or losing. And that's why sooner we'll recognize it and mobilize our resources. So lesser price will be paid, because the price of opposing dictators goes up every day.
And as you said, I have to add something on that. It's a war that it's very unfair to people that's seeing right now dictators shutting down the internet in my country. At the same time, when we ask Elon Musk to kick out dictators from social media, X, he says that, you're actually mentioned about that, we should not be like them. We should respect freedom of speech. What kind of freedom of speech is that when dictators ban 90 million people? Basically, it's like taking the entire nation hostage and using the same social media to spread their lies, to mobilize the rest of the world, to brainwash the youth in America, in Europe, to get to the street and say, end war. So there's only one path for Iranians to end this war, which is ending the Islamic Republic. But right now, you don't hear the voice of Iranians because they don't have internet. What was your challenge? Because I'm sure that like Elon Musk tried to help send the Starlink to Iranians, Ukrainians, but at the same time, I still believe that social media became a weapon in the hand of dictators to oppress their own people, to cut them, kick them out from the rest of the world. Now nobody knows what's going on in Iran. What do you say to Elon Musk?
It's always very tempting to say, okay, we are different, so we respect the freedom of speech. We play by the books, because we have to show the example. But that's not what you do at war. So it's like saying, okay, let's Dr. Goebbels to have 1 hour on BBC
the freedom of speech.
1940. It's a war. But this is, again, to understand that we are at such a peril, we just have to recognize this threat, this existential threat, and just either this is a war to be won, and the true believers in the free world must join forces, not with dictators. There's no peaceful coexistence, but with the freedom fighters. Mm-hmm. Again, you don't have to just to start World War III, so because it's don't forget, the free world has overwhelming military advantage, economic or political. So this never before. In 1940, by the way, when Britain stood alone against Nazi Germany and Soviet Union as Stalin as Hitler ally, it looked really bad. I mean, this was much worse. The balance of power was not in the favor of the free world. Today, this is the free world has everything except political will. It's complacency, and it's also pretending that we are the good guys. We don't act as them. They're hooligans. They kill some people, but we can be above that. No, you cannot be above that. You are just on the same level. Yeah. We are fighting the war, and if you don't want to fight, help others. I mean, the fact is that Ukraine doesn't receive weapons and resources that are available to save Ukrainian people. It's just impossible. So they can't, they can't even make a decision to shoot Russian missiles that are hitting Ukrainian civilians. It's a total impotence. I mean, this is Europe. Just for a moment, Europe just recently adopted 18th package of sanctions. Now it sounds great. 18 packages of sanctions. Now, slow down. 18. That means that the first one was nothing. So you keep adding, you don't fight the war. It's the first package, that was introduced, probably months or so after the Putin's full-scale invasion. I mean, not even mentioning that Putin already, occupied Ukraine back in 2014. So when he began full-scale invasion, it was already 8 years of violation of international rules. And basically Europe did nothing. So, but still, this is this, after Putin's attack, so they started with small, this 1, 2, 3. And here now, we have French President Macron saying, no, we have just to make an ultimatum. If Putin doesn't stop killing civilians, we can do massive sanctions. I mean,
what is
Mr. President, are you saying that 18 packages was not massive enough? Yes. So there's always a room. They always try to play, it's like both sides.
Exactly.
No, war is a war, So Russia is still selling oil. Russia is still, being supported financially by Europe, buying Russian gas, Russian oil. So
this is the exact challenge.
Are we fighting the war or not?
Yeah, this is the exact challenge that we have with President Macron. In my meeting with President Macron, I never forget the moment when he was saying that, so you call it revolution, so Iranian are in the street, so this is on you, you have to do this, and we have sanctioned. And I was like, the Iranian so-called supreme leader is not in the sanction list, any European countries. But another thing, and he was like, we are about diplomacy. French is all about diplomacy. This is what President Macron said. We cannot do anything. What do you expect us? I said, no, France is also about revolution. You can't just say that. And now the Iranian regime is at weakest point, and President Macron says that it's going to be a chaos if the regime collapses. That's the narrative for years and years. Garry, they have been telling us that if the Islamic Republic leader's gone, then Iran is going to be another Syria. What happened to Syria now? No one and no regime is more dangerous than the Islamic Republic.
No, we keep hearing the same about Russia. So
it's going to be chaos, yeah, if Putin is gone.
Is it going to be chaos? Maybe. Again, it's definitely uncertainty. Now, do you want uncertainty of life or certainty of death? This is, I'm not telling you that, you remove the regime in Iran or you remove Putin. You will have, just
it's
the flourishing, the blossoming democracy and liberal economy. And this is, no. It's not easy. You may end up, it's not Libya, maybe Syria. Again, this is you definitely have a lot of
Iraq,
challenges.
Afghanistan, the American, always mention about this. And they say that that's why we're not sure about Iran. And we're not going to talk about changing the regime. But whether they want or not, people in Iran, they want to change this regime.
Look, again, I think Iran is probably quite in a unique position because we definitely see a lot of opposition to the regime. So we saw, by the way, it's in Syria as well. Yeah. So we saw it in Syria as well. But what's happening in Syria is that there was no support. for the revolution, for the movement, which started as a very civic movement, because it's non-religious. So it's and Assad, used the force, and Putin immediately, just went in. So this came
Khamenei,
in. Yes, Khamenei. So they supported, and the free world was just, it's as I said in one of my I think it's articles, is that the difference is that the Putin was sending, Russian military jets to Syria. Iran has been sending whatever this is, the foot soldiers.
Yes.
And Obama kept sending John Kerry.
Yeah.
So yes, we all knew the outcome was not surprising.
Yeah,
so expecting things to turn, just from bad to good, it will be wrong. But we know exactly what will happen if they stay, because it's one way. It only goes down. It's deteriorating. It's a steady deterioration. So that's a rule. It's not even a theorem you have to prove. It happens all the time. So investing in change by either defeating regime militarily or helping freedom fighters. So it's a much better option than simply pretending, it will be chaos. No, chaos is now.
It's now.
And it's chaos.
And it's spreading everywhere. Like 72% of the global population now living under authoritarian regimes. Exactly. And they grow bigger.
No, but look, why we're surprised? I mean, we don't have leaders. Where are the leaders? Where we have a bunch of managers, that are just pretending the status quo is everything they know, and they just, they have to keep, keep it at any cost. So and by the way, the world stage requires changes. So, for instance, Donald Trump was inevitable because, this is the whole, the alternative. When you look at the Democratic side, so the Obama, Biden, so it was all about preserving status quo, which was dead already. It's dead. So, and the price we're paying now is it's a result of unwillingness of global elites to actually recognize that we have real issues, and it's not, issues that, we just have some, very important social and political issues we have to address here in America. But, Me Too in America it's our product. I mean, come on, it's not about, it's just it's what is the difference in payday in Hollywood? You're talking about millions of dollars or tens of millions of dollars receiving by top actors, male or female. Yes, it's you may call it injustice.
Yes,
but it's not the same as women being denied their fundamental rights. Look at Afghanistan now. Look at Iran. So, by the way, Afghanistan was not a success story, but America could control it. So, with 5,000 Americans, with virtually no casualties, it could be preserved, and maybe give another 10 years. Maybe there was a chance for the country to transform. Again, it doesn't happen overnight, but it was not the problem. So now due to the retreat of the free world, just because vacuum is being created,
yes.
But vacuum doesn't stay empty. If America walks away, somebody gets in, and who gets in? Al-Qaeda, the Taliban, ISIS, Iran, Putin. So it's China. So we could see that this is the retreat of the free world is a result of absolute impotence and unwillingness of the political leaders that have plenty of resources to actually take a strong stand against the spread of authoritarianism and terrorism around the globe.
I mentioned about it that now more than 72% of global population living under authoritarian regimes. You are part of one of the biggest network of dissidents, World Liberty Congress, where we united the dissidents from 56 authoritarian regimes. And they grow bigger because of the network, know how to work together. If you want to leave a message to democracies here, how would you mobilize them, the democratic countries? And what is your message to them about the danger of growing authoritarianism everywhere?
No, look, it will be probably unwise for us to actually call for interventions. You can't build democracy without certain foundational elements inside the country.
Gary, don't get me wrong. I never asked the American government or I never asked them to come and save us. I always tell them, stop saving our oppressors. That's
bingo. This is exactly the point. I've been saying the same about Russia. So, stop pretending that you are dealing with your equals. So it's again, I just can remind that Chancellor Merz answered Donald Trump, who was whining about Russia being expelled from G8, and the answer from German Chancellor was that here at this meeting we do not sit to next to the war criminals or warlords. So it's something that should be built on principles. And I would say that it's time to start looking at the global arrangements, and again, without pushing anybody around. So this is start building something that is based on our fundamental principles. You can be part of the global, democratic institution by paying lip service. So Israel was always, the pariah. So this is most of the resolutions, violations of, for instance, women's rights. It is always against Israel because you have a bunch of dictators that basically dominate United Nations General Assembly, all the committees. I mean, United Nations can throw it. I mean, it's a throw it on the bus.
Became a place to unite dictators,
absolutely.
Not nations.
This organization. It's again, you can't promote global democracy by sticking to the outdated institutions that have been simply, just taken over by all sorts of dictators and thugs and terrorists, and they feel very comfortable because they're in the majority. And global democracies, they still, main engine of the development. So when you look at everything, from COVID vaccine to new technologies, it comes from the free world. But how to back the ingenuity of the free world, of creativity, of the energy of free people with a political mechanism. Let's start building something that late Senator McCain called the League of Democracies. So let's not pretend that, WLC, World Liberty Congress, there are a bunch of dissidents, but there is a realpolitik. There's no realpolitik. Realpolitik ends with tragedies. Realpolitik ends with war in Ukraine. Where are all these people? It's so many wrong calls have been made. And where are these people now? Oh, now they're not so sure. They always, try to regroup, just this, and then just, come back with some good explanations. So now they're concerned about Trump in America, but America, what's happening in America now is very much, the reflection of what has been happening in the world. You can't separate democracy in America or in Europe from the rest of the world. So it's globalization means we're all connected. It's all interwoven. And if something goes wrong in Iran or in Russia, elsewhere, it hits back America. And if America loses, some of its fundamental freedoms, or America is in disorder, it hits back, all pro-democracy forces around the world.
Yeah, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. But what happens in authoritarian regimes, in dictatorship, especially in the Middle East, doesn't stay there.
No.
Thank you so much, Gary. My dream is to go back to Iran and one day invite you to Iran.
I think somehow I feel that this is our chances to meet in Tehran. It's much bigger than chance to meet in Moscow. But let's hope one day we'll be able to visit each other, flying from one city to another.
That's my dream. And hugging between men and women is forbidden in the eyes of the Islamic Republic.
Well,
Thank you so much.